In the heart of a whispering forest, where danger lurks behind every shadow, a clever deer must outwit a ruthless hunter or become his next trophy. The morning sun cast golden rays over the dense forest, painting the treetops in shades of amber and green. A gentle breeze whispered through the leaves, carrying the scent of damp earth and wild flowers. Birds chirped in harmony, unaware of the silent predator moving through the undergrowth. Kyle, the hunter, stepped carefully, his boots barely making a sound against the forest floor. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the area with the patience of a seasoned predator. He had been tracking a prized catch for days, a swift, intelligent deer, known among hunters as impossible to catch. Today, he was determined to prove them wrong. Near the riverbank, Rohan, the deer, stood with his slender legs slightly bent as he lowered his head to drink. His coat, a perfect blend of brown and white, shimmered under the sunlight. The water rippled as his muzzle dipped in, his ears twitching with every sound around him. Though he appeared calm, his instincts remained on high alert. The forest was never without danger. From the dense foliage, Kyle's eyes locked onto his target. His heart quickened with anticipation as he slowly raised his bow, his fingers steady against the string. He had done this countless times before, moving without a sound, waiting for the perfect moment. His breathing slowed as he took aim, but just as he was about to release the arrow, Rohan's ears flicked sharply. A subtle disturbance in the air, a shift in energy. Something was wrong. His dark eyes darted toward the river, and that's when he saw it. A faint reflection in the water, a figure hidden behind the trees. It was a mere flicker, but it was enough. A surge of adrenaline shot through him, and in an instant his muscles tensed, ready to spring into action. Kyle noticed the sudden stiffness in the deer's body. Had he sensed him? Impossible. He had been careful, moving with the precision of a shadow. And yet, before he could even process it, Rohan moved. But he didn't bolt blindly like most prey. No, he did something unexpected. Instead of dashing away in a predictable straight line, Rohan leaped sideways in an erratic, zigzagging motion, his hooves barely touching the ground. Kyle released the arrow, but it struck the earth where the deer had been a second ago. His target had vanished between the trees, leaving behind only the rustling of leaves and the distant echo of hooves striking the ground. Kyle cursed under his breath but smirked. This wasn't over. He had faced fast prey before, but none as smart as this one. Adjusting his quiver, he pressed forward, stepping deeper into the forest, his mind racing with new strategies. If Rohan wanted a game of wits, Kyle would gladly play. Please like the video and subscribe our YouTube channel. Little did he know, this was a game he wasn't prepared to lose, but one he was destined to. The forest exploded with movement. Rohan darted between the trees, his powerful legs propelling him forward in quick, unpredictable bursts. The wind rushed past his ears, carrying the distant hum of danger. Kyle was close behind. The hunter's boots pounded against the earth as he navigated the rough terrain, his sharp eyes never leaving the blur of brown and white weaving through the foliage. This wasn't just a chase, it was a battle of instincts. Kyle's grip on his bow tightened as he sprinted forward. Most deer ran in panic, but Rohan was different. He wasn't just fast, he was thinking. The way he changed directions at the last second, the way he used the trees as cover. It was almost as if he knew every inch of the forest. But Kyle was no ordinary hunter. He had tracked creatures far more dangerous than a deer. With every step, he calculated his next move, predicting when Rohan would turn, when he would slow, when he would falter. But Rohan never faltered. He was not just running. He was leading Cale somewhere. The deer's lungs burned, but he couldn't stop. Not yet. He had to play this game carefully. A single mistake, a single wrong step, and he would be nothing more than another prize hanging from the hunter's wall. He dodged under low-hanging branches, knowing Cale would have to slow down to avoid them. He veered suddenly toward a dense thicket, forcing Cale to push through the tangled brush while he slipped through effortlessly. He leaped over a fallen log, twisting mid-air to glance behind him. Cale was still there, determined, relentless, dangerous. The hunter knew he had to end this soon. His stamina was strong, but even he had limits. He reached for an arrow, steadying his breath as he knocked it into place. This time, he wouldn't miss. He took aim, calculating Rohan's next move. He would leap to the right. He was sure of it. He released the arrow, but at the very last second, Rohan twisted left, and the arrow whizzed past him, embedding itself deep into the bark of a tree. Kyle cursed. This deer was mocking him. Up ahead, Rohan saw it, a deep, muddy pit, hidden beneath layers of fallen leaves. A plan formed instantly. He couldn't outrun Kyle forever, but he could outsmart him. He slowed his pace slightly, just enough for Kyle to think he was getting tired. He let his breathing become heavier, his steps just a little sluggish. Let him think he's winning. Kyle saw the deer slowing down and grinned. Finally. He reached for another arrow, ready to take the final shot. Please like the video and subscribe our YouTube channel. But he never got the chance. As Cale lunged forward, the ground beneath him suddenly gave way. The hunter's triumph turned into horror as he plunged into the pit, sinking knee-deep in thick, clinging mud. His bow slipped from his hands, disappearing beneath the muck. From a safe distance, Rohan stopped and turned. His dark eyes met Cale's furious gaze. This was not the ending the hunter had expected, but it was exactly the one Rohan had planned. Cale thrashed in the thick, unforgiving mud, his arms sinking as he struggled to pull himself free. His once confident stance was now reduced to helpless flailing, his boots trapped beneath the sticky earth. Panic surged through him. The bow he had relied on for years had vanished beneath the sludge, and his arrows were useless in this state. For the first time in his life, Kyle was the one trapped. From a safe distance, Rohan stood tall, his sides rising and falling with steady breaths. He watched the hunter, his large, dark eyes reflecting both wisdom and triumph. He had won, not through brute strength, but through his wits, his instincts, and his ability to remain calm under pressure. This was his forest, his home, and he had defended it without a single fight. Cale's jaw clenched as he locked eyes with the deer. Was it mocking him? No, there was no arrogance in Rohan's gaze, only a quiet understanding. The realization struck Cale hard. This wasn't just an ordinary deer. This creature had outwitted him, proving that intelligence and awareness were far more powerful weapons than any bow or arrow. With one last flick of his tail, Rohan turned and leaped away, disappearing into the golden light of the forest. He did not gloat. He did not stay to watch the hunter struggle. His victory was in his survival, in the freedom of the trees and the wind that carried his scent far from danger. Please like the video and subscribe our YouTube channel. Cale let out a frustrated sigh, his muscles finally relaxing as he accepted his fate. The hunter had become the hunted, not by force, but by wit. He stared up at the sky, realizing that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as invincible as he once thought. Nature had its own rules, and today he had been the student. After what felt like hours, Kyle managed to free himself, exhausted and covered in mud. He picked up what little he could salvage and trudged away, his once sharp arrogance now replaced by a newfound respect for the wild. He knew he would never look at the forest the same way again. As for Rohan, he returned to his herd, blending once more into the whispering leaves. He had not just survived, he had proven that survival belonged to those who could think ahead, those who could remain alert, those who could turn the hunter's strength into his weakness. He had taught a lesson that would not be forgotten. Moral of the story: intelligence is the greatest weapon.